Can Nate Frazier actually win the Heisman? Possibly. Next, Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back. This is Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. We're glad you all are here. For all of you who make us the first listen of the day, we appreciate you. For all of you who go ahead and listen all the way through the end of the loyal third segment, you're the best. And lastly, every single day you're here because we're here because we're talking about the dogs. There is everything to talk about all the time about Georgia Bulldog. It's fantastic to be a Georgia Bulldog. Let's get into it. We're talking Nate Frazier, Heisman odds, looking in the next year. I got to be honest with you. I'm going to talk about a couple things today. One, I'm going to talk about Nate Frazier and the possibility of winning the Heisman, which this just in, I'm not above saying he's at least getting to New York. Look, Carson Beck without the interceptions and with one more victory against Alabama. He completes the victory against Alabama, doesn't throw the amount of interceptions that he had. I think he goes to New York. Really do. Because this Heisman, it was Genty who should have won. Sanders, Cam, but the top of it was not elite, except for Genty. He was absolutely dynamic and should have won. Much chronicled on this podcast. Here's what I'm going to talk about. Nate Frazier, we're talking about what he has going for his campaign in 2025 and the Heisman finalist possibility. We're going to talk about a couple more dogs that are going to be SEC, all SEC team listed players, as well as who are under the radar performers that can go ahead and make a push for not only all SEC, but as well as Heisman odds. And yes, I have a name for you that I don't think is crazy. It's much like Cam Ward. We have somebody on our team who is much like Cam Ward. I'm going to explain who that is and why I actually would take a flyer on him right now because you got juice and odds to get there. And the position translates really, really, really easy to get some action going to New York. But let's talk about Nate Frazier to begin the show. Nate Frazier, running back extraordinaire, has burst, has explosiveness, has top-level speed that I don't know can be matched outside of Dwight Phillips. Dwight Phillips is the absolute burner on this team. That guy can get 0 to 100 in a hurry. We had a couple of plays for him. That little end around the goal line, just saying, hey, by the time he gets in motion, and if you're 2 steps behind, if you're half a step behind in that motion, man covers down the end zone, he's going to fly past you. We get a seal on the edge, and he's gravy to the end zone, and that's exactly what happened. Bunch of times. We tried it a bunch of times. Did not succeed because he didn't have the volume that we anticipated, but I do anticipate that upticking quite a bit for this coming year. Nate Frazier, on the other hand, is dynamic all the way around. We saw him having probably the most skill on this team. ETN notwithstanding, he has explosiveness. He can run in between the tackles. He can bounce it outside. He has no problem with contact, finding people and destroying them. He has no problem avoiding contact as well. This is not a one-hit wonder with him. He is a complete back, and I will keep on mentioning this because it's worth mentioning again and repeating it. It bears repeating. Nick Saban called him the best running back in that cycle for recruiting. Nick knows a thing about football and knows a thing or two about who it is that should be thought of highly. Nate Frazier is leading the conversation for Georgia in the Heisman odds. Right now, you can get some juice on him. A couple of the names that he has talked about around, just in the same ballpark. DJ Lagway, Cade Klubnik, Arch Manning, Nico, Ryan Williams, Lenore Sellers, Sam Levitt, which many people talking about him having the arm above all arms in this upcoming draft when he declares, which is really wild to me. Jeremiah Smith, a guy that I would take a flyer on next in this list just because volume, and they're going to play notable games, and they're always on television. Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame. Georgia fans hate him because of what he was able to accomplish against us, but I would actually say he has pretty dang good odds getting there. It's really wild to me. If you look back at last year's selection, why I think Nate Frazier is actually being on this list really important for Georgia and really important for his campaign. last year, the Heisman Trophy odds, Genty, Gabriel, Sanders, Ward, were right there neck and neck all the way throughout. They were listed as people who were on watch lists before Carson Beck as well. Was on it. Quinn Ewers, Jalen Milrow, a couple of other guys who were listed on the well, but they did a pretty dang good job. Genty was always thought of to be a guy that should be talked about. Dylan Gabriel as well. Jackson Dart, he missed a couple of key games and I think he suffered Carson Beck-ism as well. Cam Ward was up on that list. A couple other huge misses. Connor Wigman was on the list as well. But I really do think that being on this list is important for Nate Frazier to begin the year, because if you look at who was on it before, they hit 4 out of the 10 that they listed preseason odds, and many of them were drastically overrated based upon just notoriety and who they went to. Jackson Arnold going to Oklahoma, being a top recruit, he wasn't it. Transfers out. I think he can resurrect something at Auburn, but I don't think it's going to be much. I would not list him above the top half of the SEC quarterbacks. Nate Frazier has the following in his favor. He's listed as a top guy already out of the bat. He was in the pecking order. Injuries promoted him to the degree where he was number 2. Injuries didn't keep him there. Had anybody else been healthy, I still think Nate Frazier would have been touting the rock the same amount of times as he did this last year. I think he's established himself skill-wise, and it is going to be a rotation. Cass Jones is going to go ahead and get on in there. Roderick and Branson are going to get their carries, but I think it actually doesn't turn into the committee everybody is anticipating. I think Frazier does get his reps no matter what. You can still get pretty good odds on him over, I think it's over 1,500 right now on a bunch of sites. Well over that. He's going to get his fair share. Georgia has committed to running the ball after a horrid showing last year. Kirby Smart has already talked about it. So not only does he have his pecking order already listed, he's going to get the volume. And lastly, here's the most important thing. I really do think for Georgia running attack and what he's able to do, Roderick and Branson might be the guys that are going to go ahead and more run in between the tackles, get tougher yardage next to the goal line, which I don't think is necessarily going to be the case. I think Nate is still going to get those inside the red zone, inside the 20, inside the 25. Scoring opportunities are going to still be there for him. However, I think those guys don't complement well. I think Frazier is going to get the lion's share, but he's going to be in downs with passing downs. Now, this is wildly important, I think, for Heisman. The other 2 running backs that are going to get a lot of carries don't have the receiving threat that Nate Frazier does. Nate Frazier is going to get his pass blocking up, going to go ahead and get receptions up there, and he's going to be in downs in which you might have 3 wide, 4 wide in the set to try to go ahead and lighten the box, and then get into a scheme where you're running out of that. And Nate Frazier is going to fit beautifully within that. He's in the pecking order. He's going to have the volume. Kirby Smart, Mike Bobo committed to the run. He has the skill and the talent combined with an opportunity to be on the field a majority of touches. Remember, Ashton Genty was a dude that got a lot of touches getting the ball handed off to him, but he also was on the field for the entirety of Boise State's offensive side, outside of him needing a rest and getting injured. Nate Frazier is going to be fresh, is going to get a huge average, I think, per rush and per reception. I think his touchdown is going to go up. I would take a flyer on him in all honesty, 100%. Although nobody at Georgia will be the bell cow. There's not going to be somebody who gets the 35 carries per game. That doesn't happen. But I think he's going to get enough to get to New York. I don't know if he's going to get it, but getting to New York, I have no doubt about. I would put some money on that. We're going to come back after this. I'm going to talk about a couple other guys who are going to stand out for Georgia, maybe all SEC honors, as well as a Cam Ward lookalike in Georgia uniform who might shock the world, get to a Heisman, and actually blow the SEC out of the water as it pertains to statistics on the offensive side. All of that coming up after this. But first, this is Wayfair. Wayfair is fantastic. Every new of the year, what happens is you need a refresh in the house. Maybe you need spring cleaning. Maybe you're looking around the corner. Maybe your dingy old couch needs to go. Maybe your dingy old drapes need to go. Maybe a side table is needed for the bedroom, whatever it is, family room, bedroom, kitchen, dining. Wayfair has whatever it is. Free, hassle-free delivery, even with larger items. There's something for every style in every home, no matter your space or your budget. Wayfair makes it easy to tackle your New Year's home goals with endless inspiration for every space and every decor style. Whatever it is you have, traditional, modern, doesn't matter. Wayfair has it. Give your home the refresh it needs at Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. We are talking about them Georgia Bulldogs. We're talking about Heisman odds. Nate Frazier being listed in the top 10 of Heisman odds and having a very good shot according to this podcast. But I just want to talk about a couple more standouts from Georgia's schedule who are on this list as well. The way too early SEC or the Heisman odds. We're not even spring ball. We don't even know who's winning half of these battles so far. I understand. I get it. But I just want to talk about the people who are on this list who we have to play at some point this year. I think it's actually quite remarkable. We miss Lenora Sellers. We miss South Carolina when they have probably for them the best quarterback they've had in a very long time. Probably the best quarterback they're going to have in a very long time. We miss out on them, which is fantastic. 100%. Here are the quarterbacks who have the highest Heisman Trophy odds. And this is really, really actually startling to me. Nico Iamaleava and DJ Lagway are tied 16-1 odds. Arch Manning 6-1. Nussmeier 9-1. And then it goes down from there. Cade Klubnik, Jeremiah Smith. But 16-1 for DJ Lagway and Nico, that's absolutely ridiculous. Just for go ahead and reference, say Carson Beck 18-1 odds to get that. Dante Moore, Oregon 20-1, and Ryan Williams 25-1 odds to win the Heisman. Look, here's what I'm saying. We can go ahead and make fun of Heupel. We can make fun of Tennessee. We can make fun of everybody. We can make even fun of Florida and what they're doing. But half of these guys are going to hit this year and have seasons that preseason. Some notable people who like sports are commenting they ought be good. Now, I'm not saying DJ Lagway is going to hit. What I am saying is he has better odds of hitting than other quarterbacks we will play this year. Kentucky doesn't have a chance to make noise on the offense this coming year. They lose speedy receivers, an incredible offensive line. Stoops wants to go ahead and get a slugfest every single year. A transfer quarterback that doesn't have a hope and a prayer because no one does when they transfer to Kentucky. I'm not saying DJ and Nico as well as Arch are going to show out against Georgia. What I am saying is that their lotto ticket has higher odds. They know 2 of maybe the 5 or 6 numbers than which the lotto is doing instead of the 1 or instead of the 0. You can still hit the lotto. If I give you a couple numbers, you can still miss it. If I don't give you numbers, you could still hit it. But they got a couple numbers who are already punched on this list, and we play 3 of them. Now, we get Arch at home, which is going to be really good. I think that takes care of Texas for us. Being at home against Texas is a big deal. We beat them on the road, beat them neutral site. I think it's going to be a big deal for us. Nico and Heupel, I don't see it. If I were to pick one Heisman odds, it's going to be him. What's interesting to me is we also get Alabama. Ryan Williams comes to our place. He's a generational wide receiver with a quarterback that might be a freshman, might be maybe a developmental guy, maybe an electric runner, might go Tyson, might get somebody who's been in Grubb's system, and that's a huge offseason hire for Alabama. But we have dudes right off the bat. Our strength of schedule is the same as it was nearly. We just get them at home. We flip-flop a few of them. It's a big deal for us. And if you show out against Georgia in Georgia's place, your Heisman odds go up. It's a true fact. It's a true statement. It can't help but be. I'm just saying, hold on to your butts is what I'm trying to tell you. There's a lot of excitement in this program coming into Georgia against us in these programs of Texas, of Tennessee, when we play them, of Florida, when we play Cocktail Party. And DJ is likely going to be healthy and likely going to be developed and likely have a better cast around him. All of that is true. And they're going to want to show out because they're going to be talked about quite a bit. Hey, some other standouts, not only on Georgia's schedule, but in Georgia's locker room right now that I think not only get Heisman consideration, Nate Frazier, and a name to be mentioned in the third segment in which he's got Cam Ward-esque connections, Cam Ward-esque story and narrative, and why I think it's really important for Georgia if we're going to go ahead and get back to where we want. He's going to have to be a key contributor this year. But a couple of guys that I think could show out and make all SEC honors. The first one, he has a bounce back year. Oscar Delp has the chance to be in that dude again. Monroe Freeling has a chance to be that dude. He gets healthy. He gets whole. He wins the starting left tackle position. I do think that he has the whereabouts, a full season under his belt to be that dude over there. The talent level is there enough for him to be all SEC. I think Thomas gets all SEC or Branch gets all SEC. A receiver from Georgia will become all SEC. I do believe that. Nate Frazier, I want to say lock right now. I really do. Those are the guys on the offensive side of the ball that I would go to immediately and say yes. Oscar Delp actually, to me, has the highest likelihood because I think if it's Gunner, they got great reputation. If it's Puglisi, I think he's going to distribute the ball well. But Oscar's talent and familiarity and production already. He had a couple of horrid drops and a couple of system errors along the way that I actually think that he would be my ticket to make all SEC. If I could pick one dude, I say, yep, absolutely. It's him, Oscar Delp. On the defensive side of the ball, y'all, I anticipate a resurgent Georgia defense coming back this year. I really do. I don't anticipate being worse than we were last year. And last year we were adequate at best. I think Christian Miller is going to show out. I think him coming back was not talked about enough, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think Xavier McLeod, huge transfer last year. I think transfers like that coming from South Carolina, coming from outside of the team, but still in a pretty good traditional school, takes a couple years. Look at Tyke Smith, what he was able to do after transferring in, after having a stellar performance, but then upping his game and upping his draft stock. I think Xavier McLeod could take a step like a Tyke Smith. Christian Miller coming back, I do believe he gets all SEC honors. I really do think that we see an edge defender just blow the brakes off this Georgia defense this coming year. Chaz Chambliss, Michael, and Jalen were there because they knew how to do the system. They had seniority. I think a newcomer. And here's the crazy part. I'm only calling one, but I can't. The name is crazy out there. You don't know exactly who. It could be a dude that absolutely shocks all of us. Look, Chris Cole, you telling me that I understand he plays background pass coverage a bunch of times, so you can't put him on the line a la Jalen Walker and get after it. He'd be my name that I would have to bet on that. I do think KJ Bolden, he was freshman all SEC. I think he steps up and he gets all SEC honors playing at safety. We're going to need him to be. That is true. And my darkest of horse, Justin Williams might steal the show at inside linebacker this year. I know we got CJ, and I get it. I understand. I think CJ fits more of a Monty Rice mold than anything else. That's not it. By the way, I love Monty Rice. But man, Justin Williams, I think it's all SEC. Either I think he steals the show this year on defense. I really, really do. Many of you are going to say Ellis Robinson. It's his year. Maybe. I hope he wins that other opposite starting cornerback position. That'd be fantastic. I'd be all for it, and I think he has the skill to do it. Christian Miller, Chris Cole, Justin Williams, KJ Bolden are my guys that I do truly think we're going to have to rally around. Those are the three phases of the defense, three levels of the defense that I think get all SEC honors. We're going to come back after these, and I'm going to tell you who it is that is Cam Ward-esque tendency that I think could make a jump to Heisman finalist, just like Cam did, just like Cam was mentioned to be, just like he was predicted to be. And it should excite you as a Georgia fan. But first, these. And we're back. The loyal third segment listener, we appreciate y'all. You guys are the best. You guys are fantastic. We love you. We couldn't do the show without you. This is for fans by fans. If Daniel was here, he would agree with me. I want to talk about a guy who's under the radar right now. Not under the radar to Georgia fans, under the radar to national attention of just how good he can be in this offense. And I think for a bunch of reasons, this is the case. I'm going to try to show my work before I tell you the name. One, the Mike Bobo thing, the Mike Bobo hate has gone too far. I'm not defending him, but my gosh, just we can have success. We will have success. We have had success. Secondly, but that's everybody can't stand that. Everybody hates him. Secondly, I think Georgia, when you think Georgia and receiver, you think days of past. You think days of old. You think Hines Ward, that was the last one, right? Really, truly, just AJ Green. Yes, he was there and he had his time in the sun, but Hines Ward is the absolute alpha within that understanding of tough nosed, running the ball, catching the ball, scoring, being instrumental in notable, memorable times and plays and games for Georgia. But outside of that, it's not a factory. You think wide receiver, you think Ohio State instantaneously. You might even think USC, possibly with some receiving. You might think Oregon. But man, y'all, if Branch don't look to me like Cam Ward and the story and the narrative that we've already seen, I don't know what will. Coming from the West Coast over to the South, coming to a better conference, getting out of Dodge from a couple of tricky situations, Cam Ward, leaving the Pacific Northwest and coming out down to Miami. It was great for him. We'll see where he lands draft stock wise and what team he gets in on. But I think his success was there. His skill was evident. It could translate easily and quickly to Miami. It wasn't a Xavier McLeod situation. It wasn't a Tyke Smith situation. It was a plug and play. Let's get going. Put him into the system. Branch from USC is the same exact thing to me. He came from a system in which he showed out. He came from a place in which it was evident that he had skill and ability. Now, Lincoln Riley might have photographic memory, but his play calling is suspect at times. His system seems to me to get quarterbacks inflated with a bunch of stuff. And who knows, he might actually be good at coaching quarterbacks. I don't know exactly. I've seen guys leave. I've seen guys not succeed. I've seen a bunch of people outside of his tutelage crash. And then when they get better coaching, come back up. I have seen that. So it's yet to be determined what he is, but wide receiver is not that same position. And I think Cam Ward comes from the Pacific Northwest, comes from the West Coast over to the South, over to Florida. I know it's not the SEC. I know Miami is in a worse off conference, but they still played people. They still had success. They still had to travel. They still played better ball than the Pac-12, the now defunct Pac-12. Cam Ward comes on over, shows out, does a bunch of good things, gets notoriety, jumps up draft boards, and it was known before he left he was going to. Plug and play right away, didn't have to take time, didn't have to acclimate, didn't have to do any of that. I think Branch is the same exact situation. I really do. He's not going to have to acclimate. He's not going to have to learn the system. He's not going to have to do any of that. He's a sharp kid. He's a quick kid. He's a great study. He has high football IQ. And most importantly, he is lightning in a bottle ready to explode. He's going to go right away. I don't see a competition between him. He is wide receiver 1 on this team, period. Point blank, end of sentence. The pecking order for him is 1A. It's the first option on deep passes. It's the first option on medium routes. It's the first option on screen game. He is it. You get the ball into his hands, he is a touchdown waiting to happen. I can't be higher on this transfer coming in for Georgia. It was on a USC team whose quarterback situation was sketchy, whose offensive line didn't really want to do anything, whose coaching circus is an absolute mess. Now he comes over to Georgia, in which none of those are the case. Coaching circus, nope. Offensive line, well, last year's offensive line. Run game, yep. play calling, you can question that if you want. I give you the liberty. We should hand out cards. I put down the World Series of Poker where somebody has the bad beats table and somebody comes up and pays them $20 to listen to their bad beat. I need to start doing that with Bobo hate. Maybe we can do that. Maybe I'm just going to do a whole show on Bobo hate where you guys can write in, call in, chat in, and just say, here's why I hate Mike Bobo. And I'll listen to you the whole entire time. But Kirby Smart is not that guy. I think quarterback situation is going to get figured out. We have two very, 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 very good options. Two exceptional options that I'm thrilled for. Running back, check. Quarterback, check. Defense, check. It's going to be in games every single time. Air it out, go down by 35 and have to go ahead and play messy football. Nope, not going to be Georgia's way. National spotlight, check. Playing against elites day in, day out on the practice field, check. I think Branch not only comes in already our number one wide receiver, I think he comes in with huge ceiling yet to grow into. And if that's the case, why are we talking about him for Heisman odds? Because if he is 1A, 1B, 1C, and everybody else kind of rotates through, which I'd be fine with. Again, we talked about two freshmen. We talked about Colby Smith, Colby Young situation. What happens there coming back to the team? We'll see. I don't know, and you don't know, so we will see. That's as best as we can say right now. Even with those guys, I think they are all rotating through. I think Branch gets the most snaps. He doesn't have to come off the field in his situation. That's why I've begged him to just go ahead and please get some marks on the face mask of blocking well. Even if we don't get a chance to see him out there all the time, I think he gets enough snaps to make touchdowns in the double digits. Give me a bet right now. Give me odds. Somebody in the chat, somebody over on X, give me odds right now that he's not double digit in touchdowns, because I really do think that he is in fact a touchdown maker. Punt return, kick return. Get ready for Daniel on the don't sleep on segment of the preview for in season being punt return. Don't sleep on a punt return for a touchdown, because that is the speed game he brings. We haven't had a guy like this since Ladd McConkey, and Ladd McConkey was injured, and I actually think Branch might be a little speedier. I do. He's going to play every single position in the wide receiver room. He's not going to come off the field. He's going to have two amazing options at quarterback and a running game to complement it. That's going to set up the pass. It's going to be big bombs ahoy. That's what's going to happen for this offense. I really do think it. Hey, this has been Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Daniel will be back soon, I promise. He is sick as a dog, but he's getting better. I give you my word. And when it's better, when we're back, it's better that when fans listen to other fans, it's fun. He'll be back and we'll have more fun. This is Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. We'll see you guys later.